The gentleman yields back. I now recognize myself. Inflation is a real issue facing American families, and they deserve real solutions. Unfortunately, instead of working across the aisle with the Biden administration to address the high prices faced by American households, this Republican resolution tries to turn inflation into a political sideshow. This resolution would demand that the Treasury Department turn over internal documents about two pieces of legislation. One, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, was a major bipartisan success that will reduce inflation. The other, the Build Back Better Act, was never signed into law and therefore had no impact on inflation. So passing this resolution would waste a lot of people's time, but it would not help a single American pay their bills or put food on the table. The truth is the Biden administration has taken historic steps to strengthen the economy and combat the high prices caused by Putin's illegal war and global supply chain disruptions. The President's historic Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act will not only repair our nation's crumbling roads, bridges, and rails, it will also reduce inflationary pressures and put more money into the pockets of American taxpayers. You don't have to take my word for it. Conservative economists Douglas Holtz-Eakins and Michael Strain explained that the infrastructure law would, quote, boost the supply side of the economy, reducing inflationary pressures, end quote. Mark Zandi of Moody's Analytics stated that the bipartisan law and other key elements of President Biden's economic agenda, quote, do not add to inflation pressures as the policies help to lift long-term economic growth via stronger productivity and labor force growth, and thus take the edge off of inflation. Even our Republican Senate colleagues agree that the law will help reduce inflation. Senator Rob Portman, a former director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, stated that by investing in ports, rail, roads, and bridges, the new law, quote, will help the supply side, and that's why economists say this bill is counter-inflationary. In fact, over the past year, this law has created thousands of new jobs and powered nearly 7,000 projects across the country to repair our crumbling infrastructure and improve our domestic supply chain. This summer, Democrats in Congress took even more direct action to lower inflation by passing the Inflation Reduction Act. The IRA will lower costs for Americans, cut the deficit, and reduce inflation. This law will reduce energy costs for American families by an average of $500 a year. It will cut health care premiums under the Affordable Care Act, allowing 13 million Americans to continue saving $800 per year and allowing 3 million more people to access insurance. It will reduce prescription drug prices for millions of Americans by finally allowing Medicare to negotiate with drug prices and for drug companies to get lower prices. And it will reduce the deficit by ensuring that wealthy corporations pay their fair share. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. I have a letter here from 126 economists, including 7 Nobel Prize winners, who analyzed the Inflation Reduction Act. They found the investments in the IRA were, quote, fight inflation and lower costs for American families while setting the stage for strong, stable, and broadly shared long-term economic growth, end quote. And the law will reduce the deficit, quote, putting downward pressure on inflation, end quote. And since he took office, the economy has added 10 million jobs. So the facts are clear. The President's economic agenda is helping to lower costs for all Americans. Economists have also been clear about the true causes of inflation, including Russia's illegal war in Ukraine, disruptions in supply chains caused by the pandemic, and corporations raising prices excessively despite record profits. According to the World Bank, Russia's war is causing high inflation due to, quote, significant disruptions in trade and food and fuel price shocks, end quote. And the Bureau of Economic Analysis recently reported that profits across most industries during the second quarter of this year reached the highest level ever recorded. I share my colleagues' concern about bringing prices down for hardworking Americans, but this Republican resolution does nothing to address those concerns, and it presents an extremely misleading picture of what is causing inflation in the first place. I encourage my Republican colleagues to stop playing politics and work together. Let's work together with Democrats on real solutions to continue addressing targeted inflation. Thank you, and I yield back. Who else seeks resolutions?